Hi everyone, my name is Glenn, and I have an amazing story for you about the time we went into labor on an airplane. No, I didn't give birth. My sister did, and it was a total mess. Anyway, when I think back on it, it just makes me sick. But I'll tell you anyway. In the meantime, give me some likes, write comments, and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of trashy stories from what I understand. So my parents and I and Isabel, my oldest sister, decided to have a little family holiday together. Our parents had a date. They had been married together for over 40 years. My sister had long ago married Ben, her husband. They lived together for a few years and then my sister got pregnant. They were looking forward to the baby with all their hearts, and so were my folks and I. I'd have my first nephew and my parents a grandson. Yes, she was going to have a boy. Dusty. We talked Bella out of going for a long time. She and her husband lived in a different city and it was a 4-hour flight, no less. My sister was in her final stages of pregnancy and was determined that she would come, because after the baby was born, she would be kind of housebound and wouldn't be going anywhere for a long time. Well, okay, a pregnant woman's wish is the law. Yeah, it was cheaper for all of us, including Ben. Or my sister would have eaten him out of spite. She had quite an appetite. My mom asked my sister not to come at the last minute, and she got all hysterical, like we weren't expecting her. Like she got married and that was it. She wasn't related to us anymore. You don't love me anymore! Ugh! No, honey, we're just worried about you. How you're going to make it, and without Ben. Ben's gonna be working, and we need the money for the birth and recovery. But I'll still be there. Are you sure you're gonna be okay? I'm sure. She packed her suitcase and arrived. The nurse was around her like a balloon, and also so sensitive and vulnerable, just tinny. So I'm sitting there at dinner, and I'm like, pipe you dialed. Honestly, if I had known what her reaction would have been, I would have kept quiet. Ugh, you don't love me. You called me fat. Mom, Glenn's calling me names. Glenn, shut up. Don't spoil your sister's mood. Holy crap, we used to talk like this all the time. You used to. Now eat your food and go to your room. Okay. She stayed with us for 5 days. During this time, I shadowed everywhere, tried not to make a sound, even in the toilet, so my sister wouldn't have a go at me. And when she was supposed to leave, I sighed with relief. Glenn, where's your passport? I have it. Why? I need to book a ticket. Great! Where are we going? Chicago? Ooh, great! Wait, that's where Isabella's going. That's right. You'll be her escort, and then you'll be back home in a couple of days. Oh, no, I didn't sign up for that. Shh! Your dad's got pressure. He can't fly. Ben's working, and I'm going with your dad. So you're going. It's a vacation. It's your vacation. No, Mom. I'd go crazy with her. Quiet. She'll get upset again. I'm not flying, and that's it. Dear passengers, please fasten your seatbelts. The pleasant voice of the flight attendant sounded in the cabin as everyone took their seats. I was in a bad mood, mortified, and tried to be as quiet as I could. Bella barely made it into her seat because her stomach wouldn't fit. I won't even talk about how many times she ran to the bathroom to pee and how many times she asked for food. She was either too cold or too hot. At one point, she fell asleep, and I saw drool stretching from her mouth right to the floor. Ew. Then Bella jumped up abruptly. I was already getting ready to give her more room, and she was like, Water! I was like, Stewardess, can I have some water? This man is thirsty. And my sister was like, No, you idiot! It's not water, it's the water! So what? What difference does it make if you put it in an accent? I'm having my baby! What? What? Be patient. We still have 2 hours to fly. You idiot! How can I be patient? My water broke. I'm having a fucking baby. Can you do something? What do I do? I don't know how to deliver a baby. Maybe you just peed yourself. There's nothing weird about it. I promise I won't laugh. Just do something. I'm gonna call Mom. You can't call someone on an airplane, you dumbass. Stewardess, somebody help me! I was in such a panic. I looked at people, people were looking at me. Everyone was afraid to do something, and no one helped. This made me even more afraid. My sister was screaming in panic and fear, and I was screaming too, rushing around in the narrow aisle between the seats and didn't know what to do. A flight attendant came up to us, as it was her first day on the job. In spite of the fact that they were prepared for a force majeure, her lips were trembling with fear, and this made me feel even more uncomfortable. About 10 minutes passed, but it seemed like a week. Then a man came out to us, a tall, statuesque, handsome man. I didn't know who he was or where he was from. I thought that he was from business class. One of the passengers yelled out, "You're the pilot! Who's flying the plane?" And I almost had a panic attack. I think I blacked out for a few minutes because when I opened my eyes, a flight attendant was slapping my face. I woke up and saw my sister lying on some cloth on the floor. The pilot took off his jacket, rolled up the sleeves of his shirt, and was telling her what to do. "Holy shit! Are you really going to give birth here?" "Don't interfere. Better get another towel and blanket. Flight attendants, get me some water and hurry up." Belle, let's go home right now. You'll have your baby there." "Get out of the way. Flight attendants, take her away." Bella wasn't paying any attention to me or the other people around her. I was dizzy. When the flight attendant came over to me, she asked me to sit in an empty seat at the back of the plane. But as we walked there, the plane staggered violently. "What was that? Did she give birth?" "Shit! Man, come here!" "Me?" "Yeah, hurry up!" What happened?" My sister was pushing, and I couldn't look at her. I felt sick. But what the pilot said made me feel worse. "Go to the cockpit. Let's make an emergency landing." "What? Why me?" "Don't worry, you have a co-pilot. You can sit there instead of me. They'll tell you what to do." "No, why me? Why not the stewardesses?" "Push, push, push. They're busy. Go, I said." Oh, shit. I was escorted to the cockpit. I sat in the co-pilot's seat. My knees were shaking. My throat was tight. I wanted to faint, but they slapped me. "Stay awake. Put your headphones on." "Huh? I was terribly confused. The plane was shaking. I kept looking at the pilot, and he was doing something and doing something else, and then he told me to push a button. I was looking for one among hundreds of other buttons on the control panel. My hands were shaking, and he yelled at me, "Click!" I pushed it in fright, then took the wheel. My palms were sweating so much that sweat was running down my legs. My heart was racing. "We're making an emergency landing." "Copy." From there, I was told to keep the steering wheel straight. I tried my best, pushing and pulling with all of my weight. I think my eyes were about to fall out of their sockets. I was so scared. I did not understand where we were going because there were no traffic lights, dividing lines, or signs in the sky. There were blinking dots on the radar, and I had no idea what any of them meant. "Don't look at the panel. Pull!" "Huh? Yes, sir." Somehow, after a couple of minutes, we were below the clouds and I could see the ground. You know, that feeling of being lower and lower? My heart froze as if I had jumped off a high-rise and was about to die. When we were about to touch the ground, I screamed. And then, just like that, a couple of minutes later, we were slowing down. We were on the ground. Still trembling, I took off my headphones and ran into the cabin. And Isabel was sitting there with a baby in her arms. He was crying, she was exhausted and smiling. The whole cabin was crying and applauding. "Bella, he was born?" "Yes, do you want to hold him?" "No, let's do it later. I think I have to use the bathroom." And I blacked out again. I woke up on the way to the hospital. My sister and I were in the ambulance. Half an hour after checking on my sister and the baby, we found out they were okay and not in any danger. So I called my mom and gave her a real shock. "Hi, Mom. Bella gave birth on the plane. The pilot delivered the baby, and I landed the plane. There was so much blood. Bella was screaming, and then I was screaming. I thought I was falling from the sky." "What? Bella gave birth? Where are you now? Where is she? What's wrong with her? What's wrong with the baby?" Mom started to panic, but my sister grabbed the phone and told her everything. Our folks drove out to our place, and then Ben came after them. "Ben, you owe me a tenner. It should have been you in my place." I'll give you more when we get home. You did great. Thank you.
Do you know what reptiles are? They are also called simply lizards. There is an opinion that these creatures are similar to lizards. Their difference from animals is that they are smart and can take the form of a person. You might think I'm crazy, but it's real. Reptilian humans are very tall and muscular, with a different skull shape, 3 fingers on their hands, and scales on their greenish skin. But when they are reincarnated, they can't be distinguished from the common man. Some believe that they want to destroy humanity. Others, on the contrary, that they are friends with us. So why am I doing this? By the way, let's meet first. My name is Inga. This year, because of the quarantine, my parents were forced to leave me in the care of Aunt Leah. I haven't seen her in a long time. This is my mother's half-sister, who politely agreed to look after me while my parents work. They are both doctors. I didn't see much of my aunt, but there was no other way out, and there was no one else to leave me with, so my mother confided with her sister. When I arrived home at night, the first thing that surprised me was that her curtains were drawn during the day, and it was still quite cool. Humidifiers were working everywhere. The rooms were more like a terrarium. It looked creepy from the outside. I automatically looked for pets, lizards, snakes, that sort of thing, but there were none. This surprised me even more. My expression was noticed by Aunt Leah, who asked what was wrong. I said that everything was fine, only it was a little dark, damp, and cool. She laughed and said that she no longer noticed it, that she was quite comfortable in such an environment. This meant that I should not change anything here. I knew it right away. I was shown to my room, which was the last one down the hall. There, my aunt allowed me to open the curtains and turn on the light. I did everything to my liking. At least this made me happy. In the evening, we went down to dinner, and I opened the refrigerator and saw a lot of meat. My aunt laughed again and said that she loved meat and ate it every day. She had almost no vegetables, which was also strange. A couple of days later, I contacted my parents and asked my mother about her sister. But my mother said that as children, they didn't communicate much because they lived in different houses. They began to communicate more closely when they grew up. According to my mother, Aunt Leah was never verbose. She preferred to be alone. That, and only that, made her happy. She is a real introvert, but don't be afraid of her, my daughter. She won't hurt you, my mother assured me, but that wasn't what bothered me. At that time, I had a classmate, Edward. He's a nerd. I mean, he loved studying the animal world. I started a correspondence with him about how I think that something strange and unusual is happening to my aunt. I don't think she's human. Anyway, one day I went into her bedroom to ask for some money and saw that she was lying in the dark, and there were scales on the floor under her feet for some reason. I thought it was more than strange. I told Eddie about it. He first said that I have a rich imagination, and then offered to watch her, what she eats, how she sleeps, moves, and so on. I answered all the questions after a week of observation. It was difficult to see how she was sleeping because she locked the room and almost never left it. What Eddie told me put me in a stupor. What? Reptile? Are you saying that my aunt is a non-existent being who wants to enslave humanity? He said a confident yes, and then began to tell me that even though he was almost a scientist and that science denies this theory, everything is possible in the modern world. According to Edward, people believe in UFOs, but in fact, reptiles are not inferior. They are much smarter, more cruel, and cunning. Be careful, he told me. After these words, I could no longer be at ease in her house. I kept seeing my aunt's strange behavior. She had an ultra-fast reaction. I accidentally dropped a bottle of milk, so she picked it up in a split second, and then I saw her catch a fly with her hands. And it also seemed to me that when you go into her room, her eyes become a strange color or shape. But what is most important, I think I noticed her tail when she came out of the bathroom. It was sticking out a little under the towel. It was terribly scary. Confused, with my head full of thoughts, every day became more unbearable than the previous one. Now I could not sleep at night when my life was in danger. Eddie said that if I felt like food instead of a guest, It would be time for me to go on the offensive. As my parents won't be picking me up for a while, I'll have to take care of myself. So, we worked out a plan, and I did it step by step, so that I could get her mad and I could get a video of it. Eddie dreamed of this kind of proof. So first, I emptied the refrigerator, donating meat to the poor. During the quarantine, food was not at all superfluous. Then, I turned off all the humidifiers in the house, took off the dark curtains supposedly for washing, opened the windows and doors wide. The house was immediately hit by fresh air, the warmth of the spring sun, bright light, and the mood immediately lifted. She ran out of the bedroom, screaming about what was going on, and I put on an innocent face and said that I was cleaning up. She ran to the rooms, and every time she came across a light, she closed her eyes, trying to cover the windows in a panic. She was swearing and almost knocked me down in her haste. I stood and filmed everything on the camera, but for some reason it did not reincarnate, did not become green and tall. My aunt ran into the room and came out in the evening. She pretended that nothing was happening, and then she reached into the refrigerator, saw that there was no meat, and called me. She calmly asked where the food was, and I said I gave it to the beggars. Well, then my aunt began to slowly start up. She began to breathe heavily with anger, only she did not turn green, but on the contrary, blushed. I pulled out my cell phone, trying to get a picture of her on camera, and she started yelling, like, what's going on with me? I shouted back, what's happening to me? What's going on with you? Admit it, I know who you are. She looked at me with a stupid look and screamed, what are you talking about? And then I burst out. I already thought that if she was a reptile, then let her take off her mask. Then I listed the arguments about the dark room, its isolation in the room, a lot of meat and humidity. My aunt had an answer, and to be honest, then I felt terribly ashamed. It turns out that my aunt recently had an operation on her pupils, so she kept the whole house dark. It was painful for her to look at daylight. The doctor ordered her to eat more meat because her body lacks vitamins, and because of seasonal allergies, she does not open the windows and keeps a certain humidity temperature so as not to sneeze. That's all. When I told Eddie about this, he took a deep breath and even got upset. I breathed a sigh of relief. I apologized to my aunt and went on with my life. I don't know if these reptiles of yours exist or not, but they certainly don't exist in my house, my aunt said, and then went to her room. And then I saw a small ponytail sticking out from under the robe. Damn it.